There we go. Okay, so like I said, everybody, let's go and get started. Happy Thursday. We are talking about the Great Society and what the Great Society is. We will talk about causes and effects of containing policy debates and the role of the federal government over time. That is our major thing. That is what we are going to be covering. Perfect. Yep. So like I said, guys, if you've already done that survey, if you send me the screenshot that says you did this already, that's a free exit ticket grade. I would take advantage of it. So Great Society, we talked about that. Let's start with the first key point. So despite an overall affluence in post-war America, what's affluence mean? Somebody tell me in the chat. Let's wake up early with a quick question. What's affluence? When I say affluence is great, what's affluence? And if you don't know, if you're like, I have no idea, that's an old person word, just let me know. But what is affluence? You guys know? You guys have an idea maybe? Idea, get it? Because we're at idea. Anything? Affluence. Like if I said that room over there is really affluence, or those people are very affluent. What am I talking about? I know it's early, guys, but what do we got? Nothing? If it's nothing, tell me nothing. It's okay. Yeah, well, pretty much money, right? Having money, yeah. Like an affluent group of people, right? Think like country club, fancy suits, gold watches, things like that. Yeah, having money. Appreciate it, guys. So despite overall affluence in post-war America, advocates will raise concerns about the prevalence and persistence of poverty as a national problem, right? So much like how now, as a whole, right, America doing pretty good, right? Pretty affluent. Things like everybody's got an iPhone, everybody's got AirPods. Like people are doing pretty great, but there's still poverty, right? There's still poverty while the country as a whole is doing great. And it's the same thing in the 60s or in the 50s where as a whole, America's doing really good, right? We're making some money. Production's great, right? Everybody's doing a little better. The middle class is growing. But at the same time, there's always going to be poverty, right? And poverty is there at a national level, and it's a national problem to a lot of people. And so there are advocates out there in this 50s and 60s era, like during Lyndon Johnson's presidency specifically, that are advocating for helping the poor, which is not a thing America usually did, right? FDR is the first guy that did it with the New Deal, but helping the poor people, that's not a very American thing to do back then. What, you want to help the poor? That's weird. Like that's not a thing. So there's advocates for it in this time period. I'll give you a quick minute and a half for this key point, and then we will move on. I got like 75 emails at once and my phone exploded. Just kidding, but it was very frustrating. All right, a little bit more time, about 30 seconds, and then we will move on and start talking about Lyndon Johnson's Great Society. Did we talk, guys, real quick, yes or no, did we talk about Lyndon Johnson yesterday during Vietnam Day, or did I just kind of mention his name and move on, say that he escalated? The liar. Yeah, the liar. But did I mention any more than his wartime stuff? No, right? I just talked about him in Vietnam, how he lied and how he escalated the war. The liar. That's good. Yeah. Okay. I'll talk about him a little bit then right now because we're done. Okay. So we're going to move forward. And something about Lyndon Johnson that you guys got to know, right? He's from Texas. In fact, like an hour and a half away from here is like his childhood home. You can drive up. It's like a museum. You can go see it. It's kind of cool. Old timey. But Lyndon Johnson was a Texas Democrat and president, JFK's vice president. And one thing about Lyndon Johnson that I would say is super important, he's one of these like classic liberals as far as like American liberalism is concerned, right? Like we're going to talk about how the 60s is American liberalism's golden age. and how part of some of the decisions made in the 60s will lead to the like Reagan and like a lot of the pro-conservative era in the US, which would be like the 80s, maybe 90s. And we'll get there. We're not there yet. We'll talk about it. But Lyndon Johnson's like one of these odd folks. One of the funny stories about him is he had an amphibious car. Like he literally had a car that turned into a boat. And when he would have people over at his ranch, he would drive around and he would mess with them and drive his car into the lake and be like, ah, and then he'd be like, nah, my car's a boat. It's cool. I'm the president. Like he's a weird guy. But he also lied to us through Vietnam, and he also escalated Vietnam, right? So that's the last thing we heard of him. But he had a lot of domestic policies as well, and they were very, very positive sounding policies, right? He had great intentions. He's working to correct societal issues. He's such a Texan baller. He is, though. He really is. I think, yeah, he is. He really is. Yeah, that's funny. He had a lot of that stuff. Like before Bush, he was probably the most Texas president that we'd had. Like he's super Texan. He had a ranch and everything. Who's the next president? After Lyndon Johnson? I believe it's Nixon. I'll have to double check. I'm pretty sure it's Nixon. I'm bad with presidents, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Nixon. Drug cartel stuff. But anyways, so he wanted to fix society. He saw there's problems at home with society, right? There's poor people everywhere. Like he wanted to fix this. So he had a system that he called his Great Society, right? FDR's system was called what? What was Franklin Roosevelt's system called to fix America and fix society? You guys remember that one? No worries, you're good. Anybody remember the name of it? FDR's plan to fix society? Help us out of the Great Depression? Oh, come on now. No. Those are the 3 R's. They're a part of his plan. What's the name of his overall plan? The big name. The 3 R's are a part of it. The New Deal. Yep. So remember, the 3 R's are a part of the New Deal. Relief, recovery, reform. Those are the 3 aspects of the New Deal. Those are the 3 pieces that make up the New Deal. But the New Deal is his big plan, right? FDR is the last big Democrat we were going to talk. That's like he was the last big Democrat who wanted to fix society. Well, Lyndon Johnson is the new big Democrat who also wants to fix society, and he has a plan called the Great Society. If I hadn't said society enough times this lesson, I'm going to say it even more. So this is like extending FDR's New Deal, right? He wants to make it better. He wants to make it work better. And more importantly, he's aiming it at poverty. He wants to take out poverty. He wants to abolish it, get rid of it. Nobody's poor in America because we have a great society. He does this by creating programs that are very similar to the limited welfare state that the New Deal created. So he's basically going to keep spreading those New Deal-ish ideas. That didn't last. Well, it didn't really work the way he wanted to, actually. Some aspects of it are actually still around. You will probably hear some names of programs that are still here today. But it doesn't work the way he wants to. Now, I'll give you a quick minute and a half to kind of get down this idea of like what the Great Society is. But it doesn't quite work the way he wants. He, like most things, right? Like he did with the Viet Cong, Lyndon Johnson kind of underestimates poverty. Like, he's like, I got this. I know what I can do. I'll fix poverty. Here are some programs. And then when it doesn't work, he's like, oh, okay. Like he, if that makes sense. And not to say that these policies are bad. It's not that they're bad. It's just that it's harder to abolish poverty than it sounds, right? It sounds pretty easy. We're America. We got all the money in the world. Let's get rid of poverty with a snap of the finger. It's not that easy. Poverty's been around as long as people have. Poverty was around before there was money, if that makes sense. And if it doesn't make sense, tell me and I'll try to explain what my nonsense means. Yeah, for real. He probably thought you could fix a drug addict by giving him a stern talking to. Listen, Mr. Drug Addict, stop doing drugs, okay? Have you tried that? Doesn't work that way. Again, I don't like to bash LBJ too much, but it's hard to not bash him sometimes. About a couple of seconds left, then we're moving on. About 5 seconds. If you need more time, let me know. But again, he's mirroring the New Deal. He's kind of trying to copy that aspect of it. Now, the reason he's able to do this is because Johnson, like Franklin Roosevelt, in the New Deal, right, post Great Depression, has a congressional majority. What does a congressional majority help them do? Now, I want you to take 30 seconds and nuke the chat box. Type this response in. Why does having a congressional majority help Johnson enact his policies? And then I want to see everybody nuke the chat box after 30 seconds. You'll hear the timer go. So I just started it. Why does having congressional majority help Johnson enact his policies? What does that do for him and his policies? Having all of Congress helping out the Democratic Party. What does it do? What does it do? 15 seconds, then nuke that chat box. All right, go. What you got? Why does this help? Why does having all of Congress as Democrats help Johnson get his policies done? Let's see. Yes, it's easy to no cap. Yes, it's easy for him to pass his laws because Congress has his back. He can say, "Hey, Congress, I want to do this," and they go, "You got it, boss," because they're all on the same team, right? They're all on the same page. And not only are Democrats the majority in Congress during this time, and we'll talk about it in key point 2, the 60s are a really uniting time for Democrats, right? Like, it's really hard nowadays to find people from even the same political party that agree on everything. If you guys like really dig into politics, right? Like you'll have Democrats canceling each other over pronouns or over like different things, right? Over what's another example? I'm losing track of it. I don't want to get too current and political, right? But politics are always very divisive, even within political parties. But the 1960s are a time where the Democrats are like super united. They have like the same 3 things on their mind, and that's what they want to fix. And this is one of them. So, fixing poverty. We fixed it. I think. Oh no, did I? Okay, let me fix that. Thank you for calling that out. I think you're right. I'll fix it in Google Classroom right now. I think I only posted a picture instead of the slides. I probably posted just the objective, right? Yep, I did. Okay, I'll fix that right now. Give me a second. So let me talk about this slide, and then while I give you time to write it down, I'll fix that. So Johnson created the Office of Economic Opportunity. Thank you for letting me know, Ava. I hadn't seen that. The Office of Economic Opportunity was created to help to make self-help programs. Literacy and vocational training are among these programs. This was meant to help teach impoverished Americans to not be impoverished anymore. I'm pretty sure you guys know what literacy training is, right? Anybody want to tell me really quick, just so I can check the box off? I know, yes, the students know what literacy is. What do you got, guys? What's literacy training? Obviously. Teaching them how to do what? It's 2 things mostly. Yeah, read and write. Teach them how to read and write, literacy training. So like poor farmers maybe, or poor farmers' kids that never learned how to do that stuff. Teach them how to read and write so they don't be poor anymore, right? Hey, don't be poor. Here's how you read and write. And also vocational training. Now this one actually is pretty cool. Vocational training is like very specific job training. So it's not quite college, but it's kind of college and it's kind of community college and it's kind of regular school mixed together. That's vocational training. So like think those schools that are around that give you like when I think vocational training, I think like plumbing school or electrician school, right? Or like going to school to learn how to be, does that make sense? Like certain types of jobs, like it's a school that teaches you how to do a job. Maybe mechanics, depending on who you ask, would be vocational, but that's what vocational school is. It's a school that's designed to teach you how to do a job. And that's pretty cool. I think vocational training is really important. Like trade school, exactly. That's a better term for it, Zach, trade school. So vocational, it's kind of like trade school. I think that this type of school is really important, I think. And I think, in fact, a lot of, like, for example, I have a grandfather that was a vet from Vietnam, and like, you know, he was an insurance adjuster his whole life, and like he was bored and he had GI Bill left over, and he just went to like learn to fix air conditioning. And then like he would fix all the air conditioning for everybody in the house, like in the family. You know what I mean? Like vocational school is pretty cool, especially for people that kind of already know what they like to do and like just want to add on, and or people who want a job and don't want to, you know. It's good. It's good stuff. Vocational school. It's like trade school. Yeah, that's a better way to put it. And then this office did not have very much success. It had limited success. So it was successful in some aspects and not successful in others, in part because it's really difficult to break a cycle of poverty. More so than Johnson thought. Johnson thought, hey, let's pick these people up by their bootstraps. Let's give them some jobs. Let's teach them how to do stuff. And this will work. And it's not quite that simple. Also, to be fair, it might have worked if they had more money to spend in the program. But the problem is most of the money in the US is going to fight the Vietnam War. And is Johnson making the Vietnam War go smoothly, or is he making it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger every chance he gets? What's Johnson doing with the Vietnam War? Bigger. He's escalating it every chance he gets, right? So all of our money is tied up in the war. Less of it gets to go into his program, so it is limited. It has limited success. I'll give you guys a quick 2 minutes on this while I fix the slides in Google Classroom. Cannot believe I accidentally uploaded an objective. Let me fix those really quick. And then if you guys can just double check me in a second before we end and make sure that I uploaded the right file. All right, guys, the slides should be updated. Should be correct. All right, looks good. They should be up. And about a minute left on the clock. Again, Johnson's going to fix poverty. Not quite, but he tries. Give credit where credit's due. He's trying to fix it. He wants to make things better. He wants to increase society. About 30 seconds left. All right, let's move forward. So the self-reliance programs were created, social relief programs. Why did I say self-reliance? It is early in the morning. I apologize, guys. So social relief programs. He had three things that he did to help fix social relief in his eye. One was Medicare program. That nice old man that he is signing the document with is a nice old man for a reason. Basically, he provided federally funded health insurance for people over 65. So the second you get your Social Security, bam, you get your Medicare card, and you don't have to pay for health insurance anymore. Then the Medicaid program came around. Medicaid is a federally funded health insurance to those in poverty. Oh, well, you're in poverty, you can't really afford health insurance, or you don't have a job, you can't afford health insurance. Here is health insurance. These are Lyndon Johnson programs. These are programs that, like, I know I grew up around a lot of people have this. I know for example, a lot of older people that I know like really like their Medicare, but their Medicare only covers so much, right? So it's something, it's interesting. These two programs are very hot button topics even today. And then he also abolished all those immigration quotas. Remember remember all those racist immigration quotas we had? Like, hey, stop letting Asians in. Hey, stop letting those Eastern Europeans in. They're communists, all that stuff. Lyndon Johnson abolishes those. So he provides new opportunities for America seeking immigrants because now there's no quotas. Now more immigrants can come in. Yeah, people did not like that. It was not necessarily, but he did it. He had support. He wanted to do it. It's something that he believed in. He believed in making America this. So again, right? That's the dichotomy of Lyndon Johnson, right? He flubbed. He messed up the Vietnam situation so bad by escalating it, and like internationally, it's like it's a bad look for him, right? And domestically, he's not perfect by any means, but he wants America to be this wonderful place without poverty, where it's full of like he wants that stuff, and he's trying to actually enact policies to do it. It just doesn't work out for the guy. Like it's really hard to fix those issues. It's not a one president fix, if that makes sense. You guys know what I mean when I say that? Like it takes more than 4 years to fix poverty. And if you don't have consistency and consistent like wanting to do it over that time, it's not going to go away. But he tried his hardest, and some of his stuff, like he got it done, to his credit. Yeah, like fixing the earth. Exactly. It's going to take more than a president. If a president ever runs on the platform, I'm going to fix the earth, they're promising a little too much. See what their shorter term goals are. Yeah, it's not a one president problem, but he did, to his credit, he tried to solve it. He did everything a singular president could do, right? Like kind of like FDR, where he did all he could. FDR got bailed out by the war, though, because who knows if his plan would have kept working, because it was already kind of in decline by 1939. About 40 seconds. We don't need too much more time on the social relief programs, but do define them. These are all, I believe all of them are key terms. All right, let's go to move on. So key point 2, liberalism based on anti-communism abroad and the firm belief in efficacy of government power to achieve social goals at home reached a high point of political influence in the mid-60s. So basically the mid-1960s are when the Democrats, or the liberals, you could say, in US politics during this time are at their height. They're the strongest. This is the strongest American liberalism will ever be for now. But this is its high point. And also, this is the most united that they will be ever. That is, like, without a doubt, this is the most united American liberals will ever be. They're all on the same page. No communism abroad. Government should help people. That's their 2 talking points. They are more united than they ever had been before. I'll give you a quick minute or so. All right, where are we at? Where are we at? About 30 seconds. Then we'll move on. All right, let's go to move forward. So again, these Reagan meme jokes and stuff are just to talk about how post this era, American liberalism kind of fractures and splits up, and it struggles for a little while, especially during the Reagan era. But liberalism in America had its golden age during this time, was in its golden age in the 60s, mid 60s. Liberals were united by anti-communist sentiment and that government programs and intervention are needed to fix society. So this is pretty much your key point repeated, but I'm going to give you about 30 seconds if you want to like modify your key point with wording it a little different, because the key points are kind of clunky and a mess. But yes, American liberalism is at its peak. It's the golden age of American liberalism in the 60s, and it will kind of make a heavy decline. About 12 seconds. All right, let's go ahead and move forward. So let's talk about key point 3. Liberal ideas found expression in Lyndon Johnson's Great Society, which attempted to use federal legislation programs to end racial discrimination, eliminate poverty, and address other social issues. So we've been talking mostly about the poverty stuff. We're going to talk now about some of the social issues that were changed and some of the racial stuff we'll talk about tomorrow and Friday. So I'll give you a quick, a little less than 2 minutes. Talk about this and then we'll move on. Actually, that's about time. Let's go ahead and move forward. So let's talk about major Supreme Court cases. We're going to talk about 4 of these cases. These are all key terms. They're really important cases. I would recommend adding the dates as well. So the first one we'll talk about is Gideon versus Wainwright. Gideon versus Wainwright ruled that if a person is impoverished and cannot afford their own attorney in court, then the state must provide one for them. Y'all ever heard during the Miranda rights, right? If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you. Wainwright is he really? I didn't know that. So, but yes, Wainwright, Gideon versus Wainwright, the idea is basically you must have an attorney present, right? And if you can't afford an attorney, the state must provide an attorney for you. As in the commercial. As in the commercial. I don't think it's the same Wainwright. I could be wrong, but I don't know enough about that Wainwright to know if it's this Wainwright. I don't think it is though, because he's already kind of old and it's 63. But that's where the court case comes from, right? So like your Miranda rights come from something else. I think that's the late 80s. But the piece in the Miranda rights, if you cannot provide an attorney, won't be provided from you, it comes from that Supreme Court case, Wainwright versus Gideon. Griswold versus Connecticut ruled that laws which forbade the use of birth control were unconstitutional. This is probably one of the most significant Supreme Court cases of the era, especially when you talk about things like women's rights
and women's liberation and all sorts of things, right? This made it illegal for states or the nation or anybody, it's unconstitutional to make a law against birth control. That is not constitutional. That breaks the rules of the rule book. But it's true, and it's one of those things, right? Where like it's not the government's place to tell individuals what they can and can't do. It's the same thing. It's just consistency is what you see with this stuff. It's not the government's place, and it's an old Supreme Court case too. It's pretty cemented. So 65 Griswold versus Connecticut. I'll give you a quick minute and a half. That's funny. To move forward, make sure you get these key terms. If you guys have questions, please ask them. If you can't read the one underneath the old man here, it's a sign that's like law is law, or is it, right? And it's morality is damaged, is in danger, I should say. And then it's a Planned Parenthood sign. Like just if you think people planning Planned Parenthood now is like new, it's not. It's been around for a while. About a minute on the clock. .30-ish seconds. Griswold, Connecticut, Gideon Wainwright again. Good stuff. All right. So let's talk about Engel versus Vitale. Engel versus Vitale deemed that school prayer was unconstitutional in regards that it violated the First Amendment's provision for separation of church and state. So prior to this, every time you went to school, there was a school prayer, and the teacher led everybody in prayer, and it was wonderful and prayery, and the Supreme Court ruled it was in violation of the Constitution. So it is unconstitutional to have prayer in school. School and church are now officially separated as well. Church member shut. That's funny. That headline always makes me laugh. Baker versus Carr, 1962, decided that states must redraw their legislative districts so that more accurately uphold voting rights. So, you guys don't know the way voting rights work, right? You get your amount of votes for your legislation and your legislature and all that stuff. Your vote for congressmen is based on districts. So certain districts have more people living in them than others. Like let's say, for example, the city of San Antonio itself, right, is split up into multiple districts. But there's whole chunks of like Texas Hill Country where there's like 3 people living there that are districts, right? But it's based on population, not on amount of land. Does that make sense? Like the way you draw up districts for congressional offices, it's based on population, not on land. And so populations change, and so do where people live. And so in order to make sure that these are accurate, this case decided that they need to be drawn up every couple of years in order to keep voting accurate and allow one vote, or one man, one vote, one person, one vote, right? I'll give you about a minute and a half again on these, and then we will talk a little bit more about Baker versus Carr to make sure everybody knows what we're talking about. And then we'll talk about the exit ticket, which is coming up next. Should have ample time to do it this time around. All right, let's go to move forward. So voter districts remain the same in certain parts. Districts grew much faster than others. So this throws off the balance among voting populations, and districts must be periodically redrawn so that way the real population can be established, right? One person, one vote. Again, these are like what I mean, like each state is split up into little districts like this. And if the populations are not accurate, certain groups like this region, for example, will have way more votes than this one should, even though way more people live here. Hopefully that makes sense. Hence, that's why you need to redraw these lines. That's why you need to vote. It's important to that's why you need to keep population accurate, I'm sorry, because it's important to maintain the integrity of the vote. So I'll give you about a quick minute and a half for that slide, and then we will move forward and we will talk about what we are doing to close out today. About 45 seconds. All right, let's go to move forward. Let's talk about the exit ticket. So pull up the Google Classroom. The slides should be fixed now. So when you open up the Great Society exit ticket, been using these forms lately. I like them. They're easy to read. I can just open a little document and then grade them all. Easy. So name, HIP the document, this Lyndon Johnson excerpt, and then answer question 2, which is a SAQ based on this excerpt. It's the same excerpt. So answer the SAQs. You don't need a HIP it for the second one. So HIP and then answer the question. HIP and then answer the question. HIP and then answer the question. That is all I got for you today, guys. Let me stop the recording.